Margaret has spent at least the last 30 years fighting for justice after her son James was killed in the 1989 Hillsborough disaster. Margaret chairs the Hillsborough support group, Hillsborough Family Support Group, which has tirelessly fought for justice for the 96 families who lost loved ones after the 1993 inquest blamed drunk supporters. However, through devoted campaigning, 23 years later, a second inquest, which originally laid the blame with the supporters, which was overturned and blamed the South Yorkshire Police and the ambulance service.
It was overturned in December of 2012.
2012. Mm-hmm. And then last year we had the High Court hearing, the court hearing that overturned the verdict.
3 High Court judges, or 4 High Court judges, overturned it and said there was enough evidence, obviously, to take it further, and that's how we ended up getting a new inquest and getting the original verdicts, which is accidental death, quashed.
And for your efforts, your tireless efforts, Margaret, you won a Women Achievement Award last year, yeah?
Yes.
And a CBE. And a CBE as well the year
yes.
before, yeah? Okay. At one point, it must have felt, Margaret, that everything was against you. When you originally set out on this quest for justice, you had the media against you, you had the police against you, and you basically had the government against you too. You had everybody against you.
Yes.
The three biggest institutions that could be against you. At any point, did you feel to yourself it wasn't worth it and you felt like giving up?
Well, I'd be lying if I said it wasn't worth it and I felt like giving up. Yes, there's a few times along the journey that I did feel like giving up, and I'm sure the families did as well, because it was very, very tiring. But we knew, and the families knew, that if we gave up, we were giving up on our loved ones who had died, and we were also giving up on ourselves. But we also knew at the same time as well, it was bigger than Hillsborough. I always felt Hillsborough was very political for what happened to us and the cover-up. We always knew that from the very beginning. And we knew we've got to change this. We've got to change a system that's so morally wrong. So it wasn't just about Hillsborough, it was about all other injustices that had gone on in the past. And, you know, still going on probably to this day. So we weren't only fighting for our 96 and our fans and survivors of that day. We were fighting for all supporters of all clubs of all over the country. And I think that was important. And you've got to recognise now, since we've had these new inquests and we've had the correct verdict that we fought for so long for, how big and how the magnitude of the cover-up, where it went, where it began, and where it's finished, is a disgrace. And I think everybody here who's listening, if they are listening, they'll realise what's come out since we have had our right verdict. You know, you've got to look at the Jimmy Savile that's been going on all them years. Rotherham, there's so many things, all grieve. The list is endless. And I feel what we've achieved has opened avenues, not just for Hillsborough, but for all of them innocent people. And I think that is so important for this country and this nation.
So you think that's given people direct encouragement to come forward and to challenge the authorities themselves, yeah?
Absolutely, because we were getting told years ago, I mean, I'm going back from the very, very beginning, we were getting told there's no chance that you'll ever get the verdict, you know, the right verdict. The fans kill themselves. We were getting told this. It was an absolute disgrace. And we knew that we could not give up on that, because we knew if this has happened in the magnitude of 96, how many single people and people without voices who are scared to speak to governments, who are scared to, you know, of authority. Well, we've shown we're not scared of authority. We will change things. I mean, I have met a lot of government people, now politicians. I've met the recent Home Secretary. I've met the Prime Minister, who's done a good job for the Hillsborough families. I'll be honest about that. But I've never been scared to tell them, we've listened to you for nearly 20 odd years. It's about time now you listen to us, and this is what we want, and this is what's got to change. And I think it'll be a gradual process. It's no quick fix for anybody else. It's no quick fix, but it will happen. And we've started the change of that. We are now hopefully going into the Parliament on the 29th of March with Andy Burnham to hopefully get a Hillsborough law that will change a lot of things for the good of the ordinary people of this country. Because what people don't realise, the cost, what it's cost the families all of these years, we got no help whatsoever. We were forking out of our pockets. We were borrowing money. We were fundraising. And we done that for all of them years. And without that help of the ordinary people, we couldn't have got what we've achieved today.
And how difficult then was it, Margaret, in the early days? I mean, when you had no help, you had no experience of doing this, you're just ordinary families with none of this background. How did you go about it personally? Where did you start?
It's very, very difficult to answer that, really, because I say we were fortunate, but we weren't fortunate, obviously, because we all got together because we lost something so precious to each and every one of us. But we had a great chairman who we decided to be our chairman at the time, which was Mr. Trevor Hicks, who lost his 2 beautiful daughters on that day. And he organised, we get a group together, we get a committee, get all the families together, get a committee, and do everything above board. We had voting systems and everything else. And, a lot of us have been there from day one and fought from day one. It wasn't easy, but the most difficult part was some of the nasty emails we were getting from ordinary people. It was awful. Go out, you killed your own, what a pity, 96,000 didn't die with them. We've had to go through all of that. And listen to that, but they're just a minority of people. The vast majority of people are absolutely wonderful people. The human race has shown the families how kind, how generous, how supportive they are. And with that support, it kept us going. Without that support, we couldn't have kept on our feet. And that support kept us going, and we were determined, because of the love we had. Because I think any mother or father here, and probably some people have lost a child, but they'll understand to have that love for that child, that you will do anything, you will give your life for that child. And that's what we were determined to. So in the 28 years, nearly now, that we've been fighting, and we've still got a way to go yet. Obviously, we've got to get accountability. But in them 28 years, I can honestly say I've never missed a family meeting. I've been on every campaign going. I've done everything, but a lot of other family members have as well. And what's so sad about this is we've had really strong family members who fought for so long. And unfortunately, at the last hurdle, before we got the truth, we lost a few of them. And that, to me, is so sad, because they died tormented and fighting for their loved one.
But on an individual, beyond the individual drive that you had, Margaret, did you feel a responsibility for those other 95 families that perhaps weren't as vocal or didn't have that drive that you had? Did you feel as if you were carrying that torch for them too?
Well, yes, I mean, I have said this to the government, and this is not patting myself on the back, because every one of them families are fantastic. But I know when I'm speaking on behalf of James, say, I'm speaking on behalf of another 95 people who died, because there's some families, who haven't got the, how can I word it, who are shy, who can't speak, who can't go on a platform and speak up. I'm no good myself, I'm just an ordinary mum, but I'll do my best, and I'll always do my best for them 96. And to me, that's all that matters. I've always said it's not just about me, Margaret Aspinall, as the chair of the families. It's me, Margaret Aspinall, on behalf of all of those who have died. And I will always do my best by them. And it's not just about James, it's about the other 95 who died with my son.
And what's your relationship with the media now? Because they were originally your biggest enemy. So you must have a bittersweet experience when you speak to journalists like myself.
Well, to be honest with you, we know there's a certain newspaper that printed terrible, terrible lies. But it wasn't the only newspaper. Other newspapers done it, but they done it inside the pages. They didn't give it the headlines. But I've learnt now, I know who I can trust, and I'll tell a journalist straight, you know, if you give anything to a certain newspaper that I've said, I will sue you. You know, and I've learned there's a lot of them I can trust now because some of them have become good friends, actually. And I think the job that we have done and what the families have got to be most proud of, we've changed not only government ways, how they feel towards the Hillsborough families, but we've changed the media as well. And the voices from all over the world, the support we get from all over the world. Even now, we still get emails, phone calls from America, China, you know, all over the world, saying to us, we are watching what's happening with Hillsborough, because this is not only what happens at Hillsborough will be good for us to take forward for our own country. And to me, that's the legacy them 96 have left behind, I think. And I think that's why it's important to get a Hillsborough law set up for the ordinary people as well. But I think it's also important, when we were fighting against the establishment, we got no money, we got no funding, yet those establishment people, which i.e. the police, I'll say the police, ambulance, all of them, all were getting funded every step of the way. They were outfunding us because we had no money. So they were outfunding us. And to me, it's so important that the ordinary people have a level playing field. And if the establishment or anybody in authority, no matter who they are, if they get help from government, from police federation, no matter who, then it's very important to me that the ordinary person gets the same, to be able to fight on a level playing field, because we were the underdogs. We didn't have the money. We had to go campaigning, fundraising, to raise funds to help us, even to pay for a private prosecution. And what angered me more than anything, and I did go to see Theresa May over it, the police, at these latest inquests, which took over 2 years, they were funded again, and yet they'd been funded twice before to fight against us, to come out with the same lies. Yeah. So I said to Theresa, you've got to wipe that virus out. It's a disease that's spreading, and it's got to be wiped out. And I think it's important, if you give them help, then ordinary people should get the same help, because they're just as equal as anybody else.
Just lastly, Margaret, if you had to, would you do it all again?
If I had to, well, this is why I'm here today, you know. I mean, I'm absolutely tired now, to be honest with you. I was a young woman when I lost my firstborn. I'm now an old lady, I'm a pensioner. But the people who are good, have been good to all of the families, they ask for a bit of my time. And if it's just to do a little talk, I will travel to help them. If it helps them in any way, I'm not saying I'm an expert on anything, I'm not. But I will tell people, never give up. Never, ever give up. If it takes 20 odd years like it's took us, don't ever give up. Make them sick of you. Don't you get sick of them.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, everybody. Margaret Aspinall. Can I just say that Margaret is going to be speaking at Never Give Up at 4 p.m. in the Lomond. That's organised by the Sheila McKechnie Foundation, and you're all welcome to go arrive at that. Margaret, thanks very much. Thank you.